Okay. Happy Halloween, everybody. And given that it's Halloween, I thought we could do something Halloweeny today. Is Halloweeny a word? I don't know. It should be. I don't have a ton of horror role playing games in my collection, so I'd asked yesterday at the end of yesterday's stream if anyone had any suggestions, and channel member the Dave reached out and pointed me towards what we're looking at right now, which is called Myrrorside. And I reached out to the creator here, Angus McNichol, via Discord, and he was kind enough to donate a digital copy of the adventure for us to read today. So appreciate that. I will probably go back and mark this as promotional, even though I wasn't. They did not seek me out to do this review. I reached out to them, but I like to cover my bases, and why not? But anyway, that's just the small print. Hey, Krister. Hey, Ian. Hey, Magnus. Let's get around to it. I don't know too much about this, so we're going in this kind of brand new. I think this is about as far as I've, as usual, I don't try to read anything before I get into it, but I think just looking at the product page on TTRPG, I think I just read through this blurb, which is the world beyond the looking glass is not the one Alice described. There are things there, things that are mockeries of us, twisted, hungry things. What if I told you that wasn't you looking back from the other side of that silvered pane? It's them watching, waiting. So this uses a system called, I think, OS2DX. I thought I saw something else that might have mentioned some kind of 2D6 system. I don't know. We'll see it. I think probably for today, I'm not going to get super into the mechanics of the system itself. If we, to the extent that we can just get sort of the setting and kind of meat of things without delving into, the particular roles and things you're doing, I'm going to try to do that. I'm sure there'll be some stuff with the mechanics we'll just have to sort out just because, but I'm focusing on the setting bits, not the mechanical system bits. If you've played this system and there is something about it or that you think I must know that's in this book, let me know and I'm happy to go through it. But my modus operandi, as it were, will be to really delve into the setting stuff and put the system stuff to the side. So we have some credits. Angus McNichol, writing and game design. Tom Grundy was editor. Angus also did the layout and design. Cover art was by Digital Storm. And we got some interior art by some folks. Wow, Magnus has got some snow on Halloween. Well, that's kind of cool. Here in New York City, it's actually probably good Halloween weather. Partly sunny. The high's going to be the low 50s Fahrenheit. This is what is this? Raspberry lime spindrift for the working man. Looking forward to Halloween. I will probably take some video tonight on Halloween. I might post it to my other channel, the channel that I mostly ignore, which is just my posting about kind of random stuff. I'll post a link to it. I like to. We have some good neighborhoods around here for trick or treating and whatnot. We'll see. We shall see. Krister says that they got a foot here in southern Sweden yesterday. Wow, way earlier. Interesting. So we got kind of warmest on record, but now the snows are coming early. This might be unusual for a lot of folks to hear. I wouldn't mind getting some snow because the last few years in the New York City area, we've gotten almost none. And for when you have kids, and it's nice. We don't have to drive very much. So, and now that I get to park indoors, there's very little negative impact for me personally for some snow. So kind of selfishly, and for my daughter who likes to play in the snow and do stuff, I'd like to have some snow. I'd like to have some snow this year. We'll see. All right, I'm going to skip over the why play a horror RPG. I think we all know why. We've got a consent and self-play section, or safe play, self-play, consent and safe play section, which is good. I'm not going to read it, but it's good. All right. Two worlds. The real looks just like the world outside your window because it is the world just outside your window. The streets are the same streets with the same litter and the same people ambling zombie-like as they bask in the glow of their smartphones. The same rain falls and the same wind blows. The real is our world, but it is not alone. There is another parallel world, a dark reflection, a place of suffering and penance that if you are truly unlucky or cursed, you might catch a glimpse of from the corner of your eye, in the fleeting reflection on a subway window. What some call the Myrrorside has always been there, a world of magic, mystery, darkness, and suffering, just on the other side of the glass. It is a place where complex technology fails and where magic is a tangible force, where distances are dreamlike and nightmares stalk in every shadow. Most people never see it. They continue their banal lives, eating, drinking, and effing, trying to stay on the good side of the YouTube naughty police, never knowing they are not alone. That some of those that dwell beyond hunger for them. Not just any victim will do. The victim must play their games. It is the chase that matters. Without the chase, the kill has no flavor, and fear does have a flavor. All right, so there we get our first flavor text of it. I got kind of very Tales from the Dark Side vibes to it, just in terms of, Twilight Zone. I guess would be the same, but Tales of the Dark Side, I believe, if I remember the intro, it's been a long time since I've watched Tales of the Dark Side. I think had that same metaphor or same situation, with the idea that there's another world where everything is inverted. I think that's kind of how the intro to Tales of the Dark Side, and I used to love that show back in the day. But that's the kind of vibe I got from it. This is certainly a nice, creepy image. It's almost got like an X-ray kind of quality to it. Come firewalk with me. The real and the Myrrorside are connected, overlapping, and interwoven. There are places where one might slip from one world to the other, sometimes without ever noticing that you have crossed a threshold between dimensions. Often, these are dark places, the location of a brutal murder, or the site of a mass grave, places where people go to take their own lives, or just to disappear altogether. With the right preparations, powerful beings on the Myrrorside can create a breach to gain access to the real and the plentiful victims there. Similarly, there are those here who would harness the power of the Myrrorside. They build machines capable of rending the subtle shroud between realms, creating an aperture through which things may slide. The Myrrorside is a shadow realm of death, horror, and dark magic. Those who are exposed to it become attuned to its forces. They can sense it, follow its subtle signs, and use the apertures created by others to find their way through. Attunement to the Myrrorside brings a person to closer contact with the magical forces, allowing them to sense and eventually manipulate such things. In time, they may become more a part of the mirror than the real. Magnus says, so Myrrorside is the shadow dark / fell. I guess it depends. I forget how D&D has defined what the shadow dark is. So my memory slips fell. Shadow dark / shadow fell. Seems kind of similar, right? I don't think it's technically. I don't know. Is Shadow Dark or the Shadowfell, is that kind of like literally made of shadows, or is it supposed to be this kind of shadowy realm? This is kind of like I guess if you're looking at it metaphorically, it seems pretty similar, right? This is going to be kind of like the Upside Down in Stranger Things. I'm guessing similar to, where it's like our world but twisted. It's the mirror, the dark side. This is, thematically, this is not a new concept. The idea that there's some kind of flip side of the world. Probably, I'm guessing Lewis Carroll did it first. He scored number one with the idea of the Looking Glass world with Alice. Aaron says Tales from the Dark Side of the game. That is the vibe. I don't know yet. I guess we'll see if this is a fantasy setting, or does it take place in modern fantasy, or is it, fantastic horror, whatever. But if it's kind of, I feel like maybe it's going to be modern in terms of what the era of the real is, but I guess we will see. So apparently, okay, so I guess I'm gonna I don't want to read everything, so I'm gonna try to pick out what I feel like is the important stuff. So on the Myrrorside, complex technology cannot work inside the mirror. Anything with greater complexity than simple mechanical principles will cease to function. Electrical systems fail, smartphones do not operate, modern cars cannot run, and even modern weapons with fancy electronic triggers and sighting systems fail. Okay. What may still work is an old-fashioned Western revolver or an old car with no electronic parts. Even flashlights quickly become erratic and die. All right, so there's one. So we're getting into kind of what separates the mirror from the real. Magnus says it's really weird how the writer just casually throws the F word in there. I don't know if it's unprofessional. There's a tone, right? We don't know yet. We don't have enough context to know if the tone is going to be like that throughout, or whether they maybe could have used a different word. I'm not going to say it's unprofessional. It's a style. It's a style. It's a style. I don't mind. Just, I'm trying to be careful of such things because this is a family program here. I try to err on the side of not doing that, not saying such things on the stream, but sometimes things happen. I want to say Terrence cursed when I had him on the channel ages ago. It didn't, nobody turned to dust. It was all right. On the mirror side, you must rely on simple mechanical technology: bicycles, analog watches, a lighter. Okay, so we got that already. Counter to the mirror side's adverse effect on technology is the real's effect on magic. Mirror side magic does not survive long in the real. Spells quickly degrade, reducing their range and effectiveness the further they are from a threshold. Some denizens can bring their own reserves with them or become a living conduit for the mirror energies. Only rare enchanted objects, things created from the components of both worlds, can survive for centuries, often dormant until they are handled by a suitable victim. Magnus says I should read SCP-4000 sometime. Oh, perfect fairy horror inspo. I'll check that out. Someone tells me I've heard of it, but I don't think I've read any of that stuff. I think people used to kind of post a bunch of that stuff on Reddit. I feel like that's where I've heard that reference. Okay, but maybe not. All right, so right, magic fails in our world, technology fails in their world. The mirror side is a dark reflection of our world, warped but not beyond recognition. It is a place populated by entities that some over the centuries have been called demons. Some are little more than mindless husks of flesh, while others harbor intellects immeasurable, inscrutable, and hostile to us. So what we call demons are most likely these interlopers from the mercy side. How many nickels would you have, Ian, if you had a nickel for every F-bomb they heard at a meeting? Yeah, I mean, look, you hear it on the street. I mean, I'm in New York City, so you hear this stuff on the street, you hear it on TV. It's everywhere. Like I said, I try to err on being kind of family friendly, but it's all right. It's all right. That's not the worst thing that could happen. I mean, look, with all the horrible stuff in the world going on, hearing or reading an F-bomb I mean, look, the cover of this book has a clown with his mouth covered in blood. If you make it by there, I feel like at that point you should probably not be too squeamish for an F-bomb. But everyone's got different sensibilities, so go with what you got. Okay. The mirror side is the base layer of existence, the BIOS upon which the simple OS of our reality runs. It is a midnight ecology, complete with predators. What they hunt and devour is known by many things: consciousness, spirit, mind, the notion of the soul. To them, we are little more than cattle, an amusement, a diversion, an interesting snack to be had. Okay, so we're getting an idea of how things work. So basically, our reality is sort of built on top of the mirror. And we may be the I guess apex predators of the real, but we are not that when taking the mirror into account. Terrence is trying to make up for the fact that they didn't start swearing till they were 18. I hear you. Okay. In the long centuries of our history, very few of the real have ever managed to obtain sufficient power or understanding of the mirror side to cross the shroud between worlds. Occasionally, one sorcerer would stumble upon the secret, open away, and simply be consumed by what lay beyond. Such power gain was nearly always quickly extinguished by misadventure. But those on the other side, the lacking humanity's primal creative force, were not stupid or thoughtless, and they too learned from human misadventure. They learned how to harness the dark forces to create their own bridges between the mirror and the real. For generations, these demons have visited our world and carefully selected their victims. Okay, I want to get into the meat of things while we still have time. I mean, this is all good. I like all this setup, but I just want to, let's see. So I'm going to kind of skip. So we have technology of the real, which I think we kind of got through. Their experiments. Let's see. Tremendous cascades of energy can tear a way between worlds. Right, we got that part. Such experiments draw the attention of the mirror side. Okay, so if you're going to open an aperture, just be ready. Things are probably having sensed it on the other side. Let's see, there's a kind of a delicate form of harmony between the real and the mirror side. People instinctively fear the other side. That totally makes sense. Some of the base creatures of the mirror side are really only motivated by hunger, but very little in our reality is real enough to sustain them. The soul or mind or consciousness, if you rather, is one of the few entities of our reality that persist in the other place, and these make for nutritious meal for these dark hunters, especially after the chase. So basically, you're not going to be able to throw food. They don't want fruit. They don't want vegetables. They don't want money. They don't want even nice, tender cuts of meat, unless those nice, tender cuts of meat are still attached to a consciousness. I'd be curious to see what you could do with animals. I mean, I don't want to get into, animal cruelty or whatnot, but if some horrible thing from the mirror is chasing you and you had a cow, would they go for the cow, or is that not enough consciousness to really sustain them? So they might leave the cow alone. Hey, Angus, welcome aboard. Now you can answer all the questions I have to come. Well, probably not, but The Myrrorside is not a literal mirror image of our world. Its superficial layers are a dark reflection, yes, but not perfectly so. Distance in the mirror can be dreamlike or nightmarish. It can take a bafflingly long time to make it to the house next door or jumping great distances in the blink of an eye. Distances are illusory, and this plane does not follow the rules we're used to. Two places closely associated, regardless of their real geography are more closely and swiftly traveled between as though by a well-trod path. I only got a few minutes. Well, no problems, but I appreciate hopping in and saying hi regardless. The Fey realm in my campaign works kind of like this, where it's the connections between places more than there is no in the sort of Fey area. This kind of geography is an illusion, basically. The deeper you go into this plane, the less like our world it becomes. Some say that the mirror is the mathematical framework of realities like ours, and as such need follow none of the same rules. The world on the other side of the glass might resemble ours a little, darkly, but stray too far into this realm and similarities drop away until you find yourself in a fractal landscape outside of time, observed by consciousness, incomprehensible and unsympathetic. So we definitely get a little kind of Cthulhian, and not just Cthulhian, but definitely that kind of vibe of there are things out there that you cannot understand that are watching. Some have posited that the real is concrete, immutable matter, unchanging except with the entropy of time, and the mirror is the opposite. Everything is fluid there, they say, flowing, affected by expectation, desire, and most importantly, will. This is the very basis of the dark magic of the nightmare realm. Others whisper that the reverse is true. Our world is like a scribbled drawing on a napkin, carried by dark eddies on a roaring river, ripped apart in the cosmological blink of an eye. Oh, yes. I like that. I like that imagery very much. Perhaps our world, our real is not the only real. Perhaps there are other possibilities. Ooh, and Angus is working on what is down there. That's cool. I like this artwork. I really like this blue style. It's monochromatic, but you get everything I think you want. And I don't know, the blue works for me. They're here. Many are the denizens of the Myrrorside, but two basic kinds have been written of the most: the strange, who are indigenous, and the lost, who have found their way there and cannot find their way back. Oh, cool. So you might run into somebody hanging around. What's one of those some middle age? I meant Middle Ages or medieval sorcerer might still be hanging around, since maybe time. Right? Did we get a sense of time works differently in the mirror? But I could definitely see somebody hanging around. Okay, so who are the lost? These are people who have become trapped in the Myrrorside but have adapted to survive. These quote unquote people can be especially dangerous, having both a knowledge of the real and the mirror realms. One does not simply survive in the Myrrorside, one must become an apex predator. That place changes a person, and the former humans which stalk its fractal catacombs are not what you or I would call people anymore. I like the concept of a fractal catacomb. Often those who have become trapped harbor resentment against those they believe abandoned them or left them to their fate. Few are more circumspect and even helpful if they can benefit more from talk than violence. And Angus says that the art was done because they had to use stock art and needed to make it look cohesive. Yeah, it worked. I mean, I haven't looked at all the art, but yeah, I like it. The kind of blue overlay, it totally works for me. That's a good trick. Actually, for creators out there who might be pulling in art from disparate sources, add some kind of touch to it in post to kind of bring them together. Some of the lost might seem superficially worth saving. Many aren't. A few have become something else entirely, part of the fabric of this dark place, changed and bound to unknowable wills, and elevated to the status of gatekeepers of a kind. These beings might retain a warped semblance of humanity, and their broken minds are at least partially recognizable as such to us. But don't be fooled. They are servants of entities vast and callous. Terrence says, the lost are kind of like Robin Williams and Jumanji. Yeah, it's probably a good way to look at it. Krister says they took full color stock art and edited it to make it all blue. That's fascinating. And Angus replies, yep, Photoshop. Yeah, Photoshop, you can do all kinds of neat stuff. You don't have to Photoshop, you can use GIMP, but basically and I'm not exactly sure, but if you take a solid color, let's say you have a piece of art, and I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but if you have a piece of art, right, and you put it in a layer and say GIMP or Photoshop, and you take a solid color, or it could be a gradient, it could do all kinds of things. Could be it could be textural, whatever on top of it. You should notice in these layers, there's a menu that has options for how to combine the two layers. By default, just one layer covers up the other one, but you have all these different ways that you can merge or combine. Combine's not the same word. Essentially, how light or digitally whatever travels through. So you can have screen effects, you can have overlay effects, you can have effects where the colors cancel each other out, effects where the one color will affect the other in terms of luma or brightness or all kinds of stuff. And you can essentially create some really neat effects by applying essentially that kind of filter on top of your art. If you ever play around with it, if you see where you're looking at a layer and you just drop a color on top and you see something that has normal, you see something in one of the UI that says normal, you could try clicking on it and seeing what other options they have, and you can kind of scroll down, play around with what they do. Oh, there you go. So he put the colored background first and put the image over the top and used the luminance transfer mode. There you go. And there ends for the moment Creator Hour. Okay, so let's see. So now onto the strange. The strange are native to this lightless land. Natural selection is one of the few truly universal principles. And over the course of whatever passes for time on the other side, alien ecosystems have developed. Let's see. One of the observed creatures here is called the maggot, and is the lowest, most basic form of life. These start out as tiny grubs, indistinguishable from a fly larva in the real. As they feed, they grow. But unlike larvae in the real, they do not reach a particular size, then pupate, but can continue to grow until they're human-sized or larger. That seems gross. These near mindless monsters exist only to feed and to be sustenance for others higher up the food chain. While small, they subsist on carrion scraps. But once bigger, they can tackle other prey. Probably literally tackling them, or at least flopping on top of them and then eating them. But that is very gross. At some point, a maggot will reach a critical mass, at which point it cannot easily grow any larger, usually having exhausted its local food supply. Then it will spin a pupation sac around itself. The transformation depends upon how large the maggot has become and affect its future development path or developmental path. The things they become have been observed as demonic parodies of real-world creatures, bat-like sturges that swarm in flocks, or rat or dog-like creatures that hunt in packs. Some are even humanoid. All these creatures are capable of feeding and further developing, becoming stranger and more dangerous with each pupation. Oh, I see. That's interesting. So you have multiple phases, and when they enter these phases and kind of how they go is really just a matter of how much food they can get until basically they can't get any more food, in which case they'll pupate. Where does sturge come from? Because clearly I've seen it here and I've seen other places. So D&D doesn't, or Wizards doesn't own it. Must not be a D&D creation unless it's one that slipped through the cracks. Where does anyone know offhand where the first sturge reference came from? Darren says mealworms that grow into banquet worms. Yes. And then there are deeper things. All right. So there we go. Let's see. The human. Okay. So the world. So we're not in Kansas anymore. The world on the other side is a land of twilight and skeletal trees. Buildings are old, dilapidated, or boarded up in the cities. And there are cities, just as in the real. I need my glasses a little bit. Tallow lights cast little actual illumination and only serve to create deep shadows about all. Very much does feel like the that kind of upside down and Stranger Things kind of vibe. Angus says it's a mythological creature, but they don't recall from where. Yeah, it must be, and I can definitely not recall from where either. But it's a cool creature, and I'm just wondering where did it come from. Okay, so then let's see. So we got human-like husks shamble between their homes and places of work, but no work is done. A little bit of a sort of zombie-ish element here. The higher echelon creatures often prey on the weaker, taking sustenance from the herd as needed. Some have learned how to organize and control these lower beings, gifting them deceptively sharp instincts and predatory reflexes. Some conceal themselves amongst these lower order beings to use them as protective screen from those who would in turn would hunt them. Oh, that's interesting too. The natural order is survival of the fittest, true Darwinism in action. What was that? There was that one of these zombie movies. I think it was on Netflix or something. Had to do with Vegas, It wasn't great, but they definitely had the same idea of that some. It basically had kind of a more of an ecology and hierarchy to the zombies. There was kind of slow moving, fast moving, and then intelligent ones. I can't remember what the movie was. I don't remember it being very good, but in the deep, far places of the mirror, there are many structures, some crafted by those that dwell there, others are perhaps mockeries of other realities reflected back from the worlds above. Great labyrinths, seemingly poured of concrete and daubed by ancient graffiti, occult runes, or esoteric patterns, alien towers twisted and wrong, jutting upward to penetrate a tumultuous sky, lonely places, the last flickerings of a lost memory. I do like the idea that there's all kinds of other realities and stuff just kind of gets dumped. I'm gonna keep throwing out references here because that's just what like it, like the if and I guess spoilers towards the end of season 1 of Loki, but that spot they go to, I forget the name of it, where just all kinds of stuff from various timelines was kind of spat out and just created this weird just whole mess of things, just all out of sorts but kind of thrust together. Out there in the spaces between lie bleak deserts of ash and bone, the remains of some lost civilization half buried in chilled sand, or the stagnant pools of dark water in a river basin that may have been the inspiration of the Styx. Its embrace said to wash away all memory and trace of self, a boneyard of lost junk secured behind a rusted chain link fence, its signs long overgrown, warning all of the fate that should await any who try to steal from its hoard of treasures. So, yeah, so this whole idea that you have all this, it really becomes this kind of open space that you can just feel free to mix and match anything. The idea that you could really just have fun in this, I guess, kind of similar to that spot in Loki, where it's basically anything from your multiverse can kind of coexist, thrust in there. All these places and more exist. Some are more easily rediscovered than others. Perhaps somewhere out there, one might stumble upon an ancient road of dirty yellow brick, overgrown with brackish weeds, winding its impossible fractal path. Oh, follow the yellow brick road? All right. I like all these references, or at least they read to me like references from games and old movies and stuff. Or I guess what was the movie? Oh, what was that? What was that with thermonuclear war? Do you want to play a game? What was that movie called? Was that the one with Matthew Broderick? I don't know. Where's my mind going? All right, so I'm going to skip over. So that was all basically kind of intro, and it only took me half an hour. Doesn't bode well. Doesn't bode well. All right, like I said, we're getting into mechanics now, and I'm gonna sort of shift war games. Thank you, everybody. Okay, yeah, war games. That is my. Is that Matthew Broderick was in war games, or was it the kid from the Neverending Story in war games? I can't remember. Or was it somebody else? Am I totally misremembering? All right, so I'm gonna slide over the mechanical stuff. So it looks like we have a die. Yeah. Your attributes and skills are you have die types that establish how well or poorly you do at skills, going from D2 to D12, and then you can step, I presumably, up or down on the dice. We just got some 4 attributes: mental, physical, social, and attunement. And we got some tests. I'm going to slide over the tests. If we need to come back and read them, I will. But I'm going to pass by. But we do have impossible tasks and also Pyrrhic victories, which I like, which is basically that mixed success, or at least you succeed at something, but it doesn't go as planned. And we do have the concept of how much you succeed or fail. You have advantage and disadvantage, teamwork, tests and time, skills, conflicts, combat time, personal combat. You can use firearms, melee weapons, or martial arts. You dodge, you can fight, there's surprise, you can flee, fight ranged, shooting into a fray is generally considered a bad idea. Yes. Oh, look at that, a little section of hostages and human shields. Is that something the enemies will do, or we're thinking that's what the players might do? Probably both, I'm thinking. All right, weapons and armor, I'm also going to sort of slide over. Just curious, so you have, pocket knives, baseball bats, revolvers, rifles, crossbows, target bows. What's a target bow? Is that like a Olympic sort of skill bow as opposed to a weapon of war, a war bow? Body armor, you might have a helmet, a vest, a ballistic vest. He says, I know my player group. Yeah, I believe it. Hey, look, if worse comes to worse, somebody's going to do it. If it's between you and some especially an NPC, I figure someone will throw the NPC in front. We can take physical damage, mental damage, social damage, and attunement damage. Remember, attunement is how characters connect to the Myrrorside. So it's not important. We have healing and recovery and death. Falling, asphyxiation, drowning. Ugh, that's the stuff that scares me. Drowning. That seems like a horrible way to go. Drugs, poison, and disease. Wow, food poisoning. Don't eat the food in the Myrrorside. That's a good, right? That's also kind of like the fairy thing, right? Don't eat the food if you can. Or if you can not, I guess. Pulse. All right, Pulse is an ongoing situational tracker that is accumulated by the player group. Individuals within the group may well react differently to the rising threat. Some may have quirks or burdens that affect their perception of the stress they are under. Some will react with anger and violence, while others act out of self-preservation, instinct, or cowardice. Pulse represents rising adrenaline, fear, and paranoia. Low levels of pulse suggest a level of anxiety and growing unease, while high levels are indicative of paranoia, gnawing panic, or clamoring terror. So this is kind of like, what did we look at the other day? Or I know I put a video, or we looked at it in stream, right? But coming up with sort of what kind of mechanic to help with the horror aspect of the game. That sort of fear, terror, what kind of builds up on you as you're in a place and you're kind of over your head, or it's just scary and you want to reflect that. Seems like that's in here. That's what pulse is their currency for that. It's a great term for it, pulse, because it's like your heartbeat, your pulse, it rises, it falls. Terrence says it's all Taco Bell on the other mirrors. I do not eat. Yeah, too many people don't learn that lesson about Taco Bell. Shout out to Taco Cabana, though. I've never seen them outside Texas. Maybe maybe it's all in the southeast or in the south. I'm not sure, but kind of a little bit more upscale Taco Bell. And I never had any problems with Taco Cabana. Taco Cabana is definitely okay to eat, or at least in my experience. So that was ages ago. So hopefully they haven't degenerated since then. Let's see. A player character should always follow the control of their player. However, Pulse will incentivize was what we want. Pulse will incentivize playing to the psychology of the moment. Okay, so I got something to note that Pulse isn't going to force your hand, but probably you want to deal with Pulse, and certainly that might make some decisions become more attractive if Pulse has mechanical effects in some way. Pulse will incentivize playing to the psychology of the moment. It will become easier to run or to fight. Thinking and clear rationality will become more difficult, and the player will be rewarded for their efforts to portray the fear and unease in their character. Okay, great. Angus, I am famous or infamous for finding typos, so it's happened to the best of them. I mean, even including myself. I will say, if you're a creator out there, if you have a chance to read, and I know obviously as a creator, we're always constantly reading our stuff, but reading it out loud. I find I think that one of the reasons why I find a lot of stuff, and I'm sure I miss a lot too, is because I'm reading it out loud. And so maybe my mind would normally elide over something, but when I'm speaking it, that tends to draw it out, and I tend to almost stumble over the thing that doesn't quite fit, so I hit it. So read aloud if you can, or send it to me and I'll read it out loud. But tension. When the players begin a new drama, the tension level should be set to normal. Only as the character encounters unexpected, unforeseen, and downright inexplicable things does the pulse quicken. If the characters are faced with a primal fear, the unknown, being hunted, or being isolated, the pulse may jump up. Encountering a creature from the Myrrorside, even one that isn't hostile, will be downright unsettling. And entering the Myrrorside and realizing that you are no longer in your own world can shake even the toughest minds. Even the introduction of a simple jump scare can be used to raise the tension. Just as the pulse can rise, it can also be lowered. A human moment, an intimate roleplay, or a humorous interlude could break the tension and reestablish a moment of normality, or at least respite from the horror. Now we have kind of the idea of what's going to raise the pulse and what's going to lower the pulse. So here we have a list that's kind of giving it. So I'm not going to go through the list really, but we got ways to. So certain things are going to happen. You're going to quicken the pulse, but you can also try to slow the pulse. And I like that. These are things that you can obviously, as a character, you can choose to do. Some of it, you might choose to, like, so 1 for Slim the Pulse is overcoming, defeating, or outwitting a dangerous Myrrorside creature. Yeah, you're going to have some choices you could do that, but you might not be able to go find one to do that to. But you can certainly try to give that try to take the humorous relief break, or you can try to forge a strong emotional connection. Like, those are things that are totally in your control to do. And so you could try to manage, as a character, as a player, you can try to manage your character's pulse, or your character really trying to as well. Tension levels. So we have normal, which is where you start. Unease. Characters feel on edge, like something isn't right. Perhaps the hair on the back of their neck stands up, or they feel a chill. So this makes, you actually get a +1 modifier to perception as the character's senses are heightened. So maybe in some way, unease is kind of a little bit good. But of course, that sends you on the road to anxiety. Characters are nervous and unsettled. They are watchful for potential threats, but have trouble with focusing on other matters. And here we start the kind of downward slide where they start suffering stress. Then we get to dread. A deep fear grips the pit of the character's stomachs. They jump at shadows. Their breathing becomes heavy as the body tries to saturate their blood with oxygen. Their own breath sounds loud, and their actions become jerky and bird-like as they glance about quickly, seeking threats. Great imagery there. So more stress. And then fear, the character's fight or flight response has kicked in. And then finally, panic. The character's body is being flooded with adrenaline and a strong urge towards self-preservation. And we have some more wonderful effects. So whereas you might want to get to unease if you want that +1 modifier, that gets you closer to those lower levels or higher levels of pulse, which you probably don't want. Oh, there's another one. Hold on. Terror. The character is so overcome that they can do little more than stare in horror at what is occurring around them. Some will scream, go into a fetal position, or hide. And then you just get disadvantage on everything. So you don't want to end up in a state of terror. Collateral. Collateral is what happens when the players get desperate, when they are about to fail and need to turn things around. Collateral is a bottomless well into which a character can place collateral tokens. You can use whatever you have to hand for these tokens, dice, coins, etc. Each hand, is that maybe if Angus, I'm guessing Angus might still be here. Is that a different way of saying? Because I always think of saying you have in hand, but as my niece and nephew, who I just came back from visiting, who were also we had a family visit last week, and my sister, who lives in the UK with her husband and kids, came to Florida, and then me and my wife and our daughter went to Florida. And so I'm constantly being told what, pond you would say have two hand. I wouldn't doubt it. I have to ask my niece. She'd probably tell me straight up. She likes to be very authoritative and tell me how wrong my Americanisms are. Each token represents an accumulation of bad karma that is going to come back to bite you. Ooh, I like that. There's no limit to the amount of collateral a character can accumulate, but having some is unlucky. Having more will be deeply unfortunate. I'm sure. Collateral is used during downtime between sessions. The more that character has, the more unfortunate, miserable, and in some cases downright reclusive and paranoid the character becomes. Oh, I kind of like that. Gain too much collateral, and the character will cease to be a player character and will become a non-player character under the control of the director, aka the referee or GM, and likely a future antagonist for the other players, or perhaps just a sad, reclusive warning of what may become of them. Oh, interesting. This kind of idea that you kind of have something you can do. So I'm wondering, what do you do if you start dropping collateral in there? So let's see. The benefits of collateral. If collateral is so bad, why would you willingly accumulate it? Good question. Collateral allows you to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. You have been warned. Use it sparingly, or it will be a very dark path that you must walk alone. Whenever you roll an action test and the dice give you a fail, you can accept a collateral token to boost your total. The character's action test changes from a fail to an automatic marginal success, but a success nonetheless. But every collateral token that your character collects is going to have to be paid back, and that's bad karma. All right, so that's an interesting idea. So you can kind of you could buy a little change of your luck in the present for something bad coming later on. It is possible for a character to rid themselves of a small amount of collateral. Usually succeeding in a drama will allow one, or in exceptional cases, two tokens to be redeemed and removed from the character sheet. It is also possible for the director to use a character's collateral against them. Certain Myrrorside creatures can tap into a character's accumulated negativity, dark thoughts, and self-loathing, aka your collateral, making them uniquely interesting to such creatures. A character with a high collateral will always be more interesting, succulent, and attractive to such creatures of darkness. So it might be, they say how you got to be, you don't want to be fast, you just have to be faster than the slowest person in the party. Well, you probably don't want to have the most collateral in the party, because that makes you maybe the most tempting dish for mirror creatures to seek. Payback. The director can use a character's collateral in detrimental ways to make that character's life more difficult. Expending collateral during play can be used to make an enemy creature more powerful, to make a negative effect on the character last longer, or be more effective than it might ordinarily have been. Or it can simply be left untouched to accumulate and make a character's life between dramas tainted by bad luck, poor decisions, and darkness. A character that has collateral at the end of a session is in for a very bad time during downtime. They might have bad luck, someone important to them may die, they may be bullied or get into trouble with the authorities, they may not be able to rest and heal properly, they might develop a drug habit in an attempt to cope with what they have seen or experienced, or they might even be institutionalized or imprisoned. The director, in consultation with the player, should decide how to use the character's accumulated collateral tokens. Collateral is a really interesting concept, I think. So we got downtime. That's one of those things I look at and go, man, could I use that in some way? Could that be something? I mean, certainly, as usual, I'm always looking for, well, what could I do? What could I do with this kind of mechanic outside of this specific system or this specific game? And collateral is intriguing to me because it's a way of, in theory, at least in some usage, of taking a game that could be very lethal, aka your sort of OSR type game, right? And giving characters kind of an out, but at a price. So they can maybe flip damage down in a way to cheat death, but they're not. I say cheat. I should put cheat in quotes, because they're not really cheating death. You're just offsetting it in some way. And of course, you could decide how extreme you want it to be used, whatever. But then you're building up this stuff you have to deal with. And then certainly in games that have downtime and have extended time between adventuring, whatever, you could really, if you want to deal with then, or it becomes this currency that I as the GM can then call upon. And yeah, maybe also creatures in this game. I mean, you're thinking about oftentimes, well, who to target in a party, who's got the most collateral is kind of a great way to really bottom line. And in a sense, it's player facing. You're kind of you as the player are taking on, you are responsible for your collateral because you're choosing whether to take it or not. So if you end up with, okay, I'm just going to do all this stuff and I'm going to take all this collateral, then when whatever creature shows up and something targets you, there's no, why are you doing this to me, GM? Oh, I didn't do anything. It's like, you got 8 collateral. They can smell it. It's your aura. It's your presence. It's something else. It's like, no, you did that. That's why they're attacking you. That's why the thing is attacking you and not attacking the other guys. Because all that collateral you built up as you were trying things and failing, or whatever was going on. So it's a neat concept. I had to work on it a bit for myself, but I like it. I like it a lot. So these are, I think, some collateral in downtime, how it might show up, right? So we have, you can be accused, addiction, compulsion, depression, dissociative identity disorder, exclusion, exhaustion, mania, nightmares, sleepless. All right, okay, so now we're on to the create a character portion of the program. I'm going to skip a lot of these. I just kind of want to see, I'm interested in, what kind of classes, kind of a little bit of how we build them, but I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time here. So we figured out our attributes. We looked at that before. So this is, I guess maybe this is skill based. Skills represent broad areas of knowledge or capability and are ranked by die type. The higher the die type, the more the character knows about that field, and the better they are able to put their knowledge into practice during stressful situations. Hey, Angus. Well, thanks for hopping aboard. Feel free to. Well, you were connected on Discord, so yeah, feel free to drop me a line. I appreciate you popping in for a bit, and thanks for letting me. Thanks for giving me a copy as somebody who came out of nowhere and asked. I really appreciate it. I'll talk to you soon. All right, so we got our skills, and let's see what kind of skills we have here. This seems to be your sort of ye old kind of usual list: administration, athletics, animal handling, coercion, computers, creativity. Okay, so computers, we're definitely feeling like we're in the modern age. Well, I guess we've got another sort of hints that we're in a modern time. Could be rituals, science, stealth, survival, so on and so forth. We do get some quirks and some burdens. Quirks are extra flourishes to help round out the character. Not all quirks are good or beneficial. Some are known as burdens, and they make the character's life more challenging and difficult. Kind of that kind of GURPSian sort of system. Every character may start with a quirk of their choosing. A character can take up to 3 burdens for each. They may compensate by taking an extra quirk, +1 attribute step up, or 3 +1 skill step ups, but they cannot be applied to the same skill. So much like in GURPS, where you take on some of these extra bits and you can get a little bit of benefit back, but burdens specifically are going to be negative. So stuff like addiction, arrogance, compulsion, clumsiness, so on and so forth, right? Whereas quirks might be that you're attractive or you're analytical or you're brave. It seems like kind of quirks, I guess quirks are positive. Looks like burdens negative, but they're small, right? They're little small things. And you can have child characters, adult characters, old characters. I'm not going to go through the list of skills. I do really like this artwork. He really did a really nice job of finding artwork that obviously from different people, not intended to be used together, but putting that filter on top of them, and I'm sure picking out ones that you can kind of fit. And then I think by removing a lot of the color information, it helps hide or camouflage the fact that they're all potentially very different if you looked at the original art. Smart. Very smart. All right, I'm moving past all these. Not because they're not interesting, but just in time. Gear. Myrrorside is a game about horror and the amount of stuff your character can, and not the amount of stuff your character can carry. The gear you have is highly dependent on the story being told. If the story has been set up so that your group is playing some friends on a hiking trip who get lost or stumble into something unexpected, chances are they will have camping gear, all-weather clothing, a map, and compass. They're not likely to carry hunting rifles or automatic weapons. Similarly, a drama set in a haunted boarding school is likely to have school uniforms, a tennis racket, perhaps a musical instrument. Even if your character is into archery, you might know where such equipment is kept, but not generally have access to it. So we're not really concerned about equipment. And it's about play it on the context in terms of equipment. So we have advancement. They're using an XP system, awarding good role play, problem solving, advancing the plot, and inclusive play. Inclusive play is interesting. I mean, and you know me. Well, you might not know me. I like to be more player facing, but I think in this kind of game, it makes sense, right? I feel like if I'm playing a horror game, maybe if I was playing Call of Cthulhu, I don't know. I feel like this kind of game is set up about sort of the experience, so I can appreciate the experience point system that's trying to get you to embrace the experience, and part of that is inclusivity and trying to be in character and trying to help move the story forward, as opposed to an open-ended kind of sandboxy OSR game that we prioritize different things at the table. And you can improve your attributes once you level up or gain experience points. I don't think we have levels here so much as you can use experience points to buy improvements. You can also gain quirks and burdens. Smoke and mirrors. The laws of reality are a little different in the Myrrorside. On the Myrrorside, magic doesn't work very well in the real, though it can still have some limited effects. But on the Myrrorside, it is technology that fails and magic that flourishes. Magic is the natural state for the denizens of the Myrrorside. For them, it is easy to shift through shadows. It is as easy to shift through shadows as it is for us to turn on a TV with a remote. Few of them understand how it works, but it does, and they can use it instinctively. Just as we might press the button to change the channel, very few of us understand how it works or could build one ourselves, but somewhere someone can. In game terms, the attunement attribute is used for any action test that involves magic, whether the effect is created on the Myrrorside or in the real. Yes, magic can work in the real, but it is very limited and difficult to draw upon. All right, so that attunement is our basically, that kind of like Matrix concept, right? Of you can't break the rules, or, well, I mean, I guess if you're Neo, you can, but the way agents can manipulate things, you can think of that as the better attuned you are, the more you can bend. I mean, I guess the mirror is a lot more flexible than the Matrix in that way, but the idea that your attunement allows you to sort of interface with the matter and energy of the Myrrorside. That's how I'm interpreting it. That's my interpretation. All right, magic in the mirror versus magic in the real. I think we got that already. I want to get more into the specifics. Loci. A loci, or is it loci? Loci. I feel like in Latin it would be loci, but whatever. Loci. A loci is a place where the real and the mirror overlap very strongly. This makes firewalking between worlds possible. These places are of interest to people of a magical inclination as the dark energies of the mirror bleed across into our realm, making the impossible possible. So basically, a magic hotspot. There are no precise rules concerning size and power of a given loci. In general terms, can also be true, with very powerful loci existing only within a very small defined area, such as within a wardrobe. Aha, Mr. Tumnus, is that you? Loci can be formed from either the real or mirror side, occasionally when the actions on both sides overlap. While within a loci, creatures from the mirror can enter our world just as easily as we might enter theirs. Those who are attuned to the mirror might still be able to sense the presence of a loci, usually a deep chill or a spine tingling shiver. I was thinking about, what was it, the red, is it the red curtain? What do they call it in Twin Peaks, where you can go into those woods and end up in the red room? The curtain of trees, or the door in the trees, and of course, fire walk with me. So it works. Actually, fire walking between worlds can happen without even noticing that it has. In the most powerful loci, both sides may initially appear identical. Only as one travels away from the crossing point will the terrain start to diverge, look odd, twisted, stormy, and dark. All right. So loci, that's how you're probably going to end up crossing over, unless you've got some, what do they call it, a device for creating an aperture in the fabric between worlds. There are two basic ways in which magic can be utilized, by will or by ritual. Okay, for the denizens of the mirror, they are sufficiently attuned to allow magic to be practiced as an extension of raw will. For humans, very few ever reach this level of mystical power and must instead work spells through ritual practice. Will working is a form of direct magical channeling. To the uninitiated, it might appear as psychic ability or supernatural powers. The will worker will often make a gesture or utter a command as they draw upon the magical forces of the Myrrorside. Interessant. Okay. A mirror creature with the ability to cloak itself in shadow might use the attunement plus stealth action test. Oh, interesting. So it's kind of like you. I'm kind of curious to see how that bit of mechanic works. And then we have ritual casting. I think we understand what rituals look like. There's prepping, book casting from a book, spell book basically. And then technology, I'm going to kind of breeze through technology, but we got kind of the overview of how technology works in the mirror. So I'm okay with that. Grimoire. Magic is both a powerful and subtle force. Though it flows through and from the mirror side, its influence can be felt in the real, if only for a limited time. Magic is a very individual force. Each magician must formulate their own magical practice, learning from the mistakes that they survive, or they must follow one of the established occult traditions. Every ritual a wizard masters is earned through cautious experimentation and survival of the consequences. Even those magicians who learn through rote and initiation into a mystery circle are susceptible to misadventure. Those who willingly choose to walk the path of magic and seek occult lore are almost certainly drawn to power as moths are to flame. All right. So now we get spells. I'm not going to go through these too much unless there's one that's really interesting in terms of what it's doing. So we have banishing, binding, blessing, cleansing, cursing, dispelling, firewalking, which is of Herculean difficulty. And this is basically, right, going across from the mirror side to the real, or presumably vice versa. Yeah, opening a doorway between worlds. Harm, heal, levitate, pestilence, portents, poverty, prosperity. Oh, prosperity. I bless you with prosperity. So I'm just curious about this one because it's a very interesting spell. So this spell, the ritualist blesses the target with prosperity. Events and providence align to bring extra wealth to the character. Perhaps a wealthy relative dies suddenly, leaving an unforeseen inheritance. Government bonds mature. The stock market grants a windfall. However, the character's personal wealth is improved. It could be a little bit of a, I don't want to say one of those kind of genie wish type things, but I wish for prosperity, and so a wealthy, relative dies, and it's a parent or something, and it's horrible, but you get some extra money, right? So I suppose you could have some fun playing with the consequences of, yes, the spell did what it wanted to, but maybe not the way you would have wanted it to if you would have known. We had scrying, summoning, past visions, warding, Now on to the director, which is, I guess, we're on to the kind of DM or referee advice. Everything in moderation. The purpose of Myrrorside or any other role-playing game is have fun. Yeah. Yep. Good stuff. Most basic function of the director is to moderate the game. Also, that's a good rule. No set of game rules is perfect or accounts for every possible situation. The rules don't work for you, change them. Don't make changes mid-game, at least not without discussing with your group. And then, so on and so forth. Where possible, rule changes should be made between sessions and the players properly consulted and briefed about the changes before starting the next session of play. I would agree with that. That all said, director should not run an easy game. The director is not against the players, but it's their job to make the game a challenge. All right, so there's your permission. Ratchet it up. It's a kill zone. You wake up inside of a kill zone. Maybe that might be overly ratcheted. Structure of the game. Myrrorside is intended to be run as an episodic game. But what does that mean? You can run a one-off adventure if you like to give people a taste of the setting. But as with so many things, you get out what you put in. So episodic, right? You're going to kind of run through the think of the term bottle episode. Some people might be familiar with, but if you remember the X-Files, there would be the stories that would be part of the main plot of what was it? The black liquid, then the smoking man, and all this stuff. And then there would these other episodes where they'd be hunting down Mulder and Scully on the case, right? The episodic episodes are kind of like Mulder and Scully on the case. They go to a town or they go somewhere, talk to some people, engage with the mystery, and at the end, solve it, don't solve it, run away screaming, whatever it is. And the next episode basically is apart from that. And they never, or very rarely, will reference those other episodes. It just happened and it's gone. So that's the kind of episodic part. Let's see. I don't know how much of this I'm going to get into specifically, but I like that they have it if you want it or need it. So your horror tropes, setting the mood, themes, cosmic horror, gothic horror, psychological horror, supernatural horror, survival horror, techno horror, and the Scooby. It says, I mean the best episodes. Yeah, yes, I do mean the best. And I really liked a lot of what the new X-Files was doing too. I think I might have missed some of the last ones, but there were some really good episodes in the newer X-Files. Oh, they even have, here we go, season concept. There are a lot of different ways to go about creating your season. Oh, I didn't know. I guess I missed over. So you can even kind of pattern it like the seasons of a show, which is cool. Cool. I kind of wish that Stranger Things had gone. What's the word for it? There's a name for this kind of show. I guess what I mean is I feel like they stuck with that same situation too long. And I wish that they would have gone with something more like what American Horror Story does, or what's that other show? Fargo do. And there's a name for it. I can't remember, but kind of leave it alone and go to the next thing. But they didn't. It is what it is. All right. So now we have creating an episode. A short season of 4 episodes might look like something. All right, maybe I need to go back. So once you have an idea for your season and a general idea of how many episodes your season will contain, you can start to develop things a little further. Okay, so you're kind of supposed to, I guess the idea is here is you start with this idea of what a season is, and you can take inspiration from all kinds of shows, Stranger Things, X-Files, whatever you want, right? And then you can figure out how long your season. Are you going modern streaming or kind of BBC style where you're going to have 4, 6, 8, 10 episodes, or are you going to go old school network TV and have 20 some odd or 30 episodes, something like that, right? So figure out how many you want. Then once you got that figured out, you can set about what's going on in different episodes. So here, their example, and I'll run through the example a little bit. So the episode 1, the characters are new in town, right? And then so they're getting settled. Episode 2, the characters explore. They find some special spot they can kind of hide or make their clubhouse, whatever. They start exploring it, and could be the point where they cross into the Myrrorside. In the 3rd episode, now that they're in the 2nd episode, maybe there's some threat that they awake. 3rd episode, they're trying to understand the threat that they now face. Excuse me. In the 4th episode, they're building up towards the showdown, and then the showdown. So you can think about how, now remember, because we're talking seasons, the way they're kind of structuring this on TV is, I think you're encouraged, if you want to pull out all the plot, story, pull out all your narrative, fiction, film, act structures, this game is encouraging you kind of do that, because that's sort of excuse me, sort of what the approach is for your campaign. So in other words, if you look at a season as a campaign, various episodes, I don't know if episode is supposed to line up exactly with a session, but at least a segment. You want to create all your little story arc stuff. Go to. So the concepts we have are, the hook, right? That's which is kind of getting them into it, the drama. That's sort of the main plot of the story. Then you have within that action scenes, narrative scenes, research scenes. I think it really is helpful. Look at something like X-Files or Millennium or any of these. It feels like those 90s shows would be really good. Millennium, I loved. X-Files is good. Also was very good. You can look at how they kind of structure it and you can think about similar. And then, of course, you have a showdown and then some kind of epilogue, right? What happens? The little voiceover by Mulder when they're talking about Scully or whomever, or the little thing where they're wrapping it up. And you don't know what happened to the crazy man in the hills, but they never bothered them again. And they were never able to quite figure out what happened. But now they're on to the next case. And then a note on memorable characters. Now we get to antagonists. We got maggots. Yuck. I just want to kind of see some of the more memorable ones. But the maggots is kind of a cool thing, but they just seem gross, which I guess is the point. So they're kind of that grub phase, and then runts, and then bloats, and then I guess these are all sizes. Let's see, runt maggots are frequently pack hunters. Oh. Bloat maggots are extremely dangerous and often able to exude toxins. Then we have sturges, swarm sturges, dire sturges, dragon sturges. Hey, Hunter, happy Halloween. Mockers. What's a mocker? Mockers are a very wide class of mirror denizen. They vary in size and capability from small or childlike forms through to grotesque monstrosities that tower over a normal man. Typically bestial in form, appearing as, I think, skinned or misformed mockeries, hence their name, mockers. Aha. So you think in kind of horror movies, all those times where kind of weird, twisted versions of animals and different things will show up, that would probably be a mocker. Doppelgangers. Ooh, Mr. Pleasant. Mr. Pleasant appears as an older human male, slightly balding and a little overweight, in a long coat and small horn-rimmed glasses. Though he appears human, there is something wrong about him. His walk isn't quite right. The way the skin of his neck moves, as though something inside is coiling or wriggling. Yuck. His slightly serpent-like tongue. Mr. Pleasant really wants to make friends, except that he doesn't really understand the concept. Like a serial killer, he is obsessive in pursuit of a meaningful relationship, seeking closeness and fraternity with his target, but also fretting for them, wanting to protect them, trying to control his victim, and when he cannot, he kills to prevent them from abandoning him. Oh, that's kind of a cool character. Mr. Pleasant. We have Thin Man, Dexter Wards. That's another person. Callow Drogs. There are worse things out there than mockers and doppelgangers, things that have risen from deep in the fractal depth of the labyrinth. Some call them watchers, angels, mothmen, or terminals. But callow drogs have been known by many names by the civilizations that have encountered them. All right. The specifics upon which the testimonies overlap are that rare, immensely powerful humanoid creatures seem to patrol the liminal space between the Myrrorside and our world. Oh, nice. Callow drogs are the most important antagonists in Myrrorside, suitable for a season finale boss. Narratively, these creatures fulfill a similar purpose to Hellraisers, Cenobites, or the agents from the Matrix. Powerful, enigmatic creatures which follow strict rules and are normally immensely threatening. I like it. Now we get enchantments. Enchantment is a spell that has been woven into a physical container. So you like your magic items and weapons and such. We got the Kitchener's knife, Mrs. Niggles. Oh, it's a doll. Oh, very slightly scary antique doll. Yes, of course. When the doll comes into contact with either a locus or an individual with an attunement attribute of D2 or higher, it will start to awaken. This toy was created as a guardian, but somewhere along the way, this need to protect its owner became subverted. The doll is naturally drawn to children as its primary victim. Oh, man. Could attach itself to any vulnerable person. Basically, Chucky the magical item. Puzzle box door. The Witch's Wardrobe. I think we can get what that's going, where that's going. Straight Razor, Prism of the Labyrinth. Was that, are we talking David Bowie's Labyrinth? The Child with the, what's that thing at the, I can't remember this, the song he sings. Radiant Pendant, Mammon's Head. Oh, collaborative metagaming. Uh-oh, that's send some folks into a tizzy, those two words put together. Collaborative play, there is no director to build plots and create nasty challenges for the players to overcome. Instead, these functions must now be handled by the group as a whole. Oh, so you get like a little bit of a, if you want to do GM-less play, essentially, here we have a variant where you can do that. Well, that's cool. So if you wanted to play as a group, say on Halloween, but nobody wanted to be the director because just nobody has time or whatnot, or everyone wants to play, you can go GM-less. I'm not going to really go through this too much, but it's really cool that it's there. And just running through everything you need in order to do that. Special scenes, prologue, showdown, and epilogue. And then creating a season. I think this is all for collaboration. And then we get to the end, where we've got a very simple, straightforward character sheet. Name, description, your collateral, which I guess is just a space to put the tokens, or if you don't have tokens, I suppose you could put little notches, draw little, lines, sticks. Draw some sticks to represent it. Got your attributes, your experience, quirks and burdens and gear, and then your skills. And that is the end. All right. Well, one, this is very put together. I really like I just want to shout out to the design and the layout. Very clean. I like the font choices. Very clear hierarchies that we're able to see. I like the blue on the white, the dark blue, and this kind of shaded blue, and just the overall theme of blue. I didn't find it overdone. I actually kind of liked it a lot. It's kind of like a unifying factor. Where there's that clown. I actually really appreciate a good scary clown. But I know a lot of people. I used to be on a video game forum, and I had my icon as I found this great GIF or GIF of Pennywise from the old It. And there's something where it was just a constant of. There's a scene in It when there's a waving, what is it, like a clothesline, and the clothesline waves and Pennywise shows up on the other side, and the GIF or GIF was great because it just had this seamless flow of constant rotation of this thing, and it actually scared people so much that when I was away for some period of time for the forum, when I came back, my avatar was gone because enough people were like, I can't take it. So I know people are very affected by clowns, but I don't know if maybe I missed it. Was there a clown antagonist? I'm gonna have to go back later and see if there is one, because there ought to be some kind of Pennywise type clown antagonist in here. But very well laid out. I would not if Angus hadn't come in here and told me that the art was all from different sources that they did together in post to give a unified look. I don't think I really would have noticed. I think it all works together real well. It doesn't feel scatterbrained. Now, I didn't go through the 2d6 system, so I cannot say if it is yay or nay. And it really wasn't what my focus was today, so I can't speak to that specifically. It seems fine. By the way, if you're interested, so right now the PDF is on sale for $7.77, down from it's usually about $10. I'm looking at drive-through real quick. Soft cover, $15. Hard cover, $22. And the price is basically the same if you get the PDF. So on drive-through, there are basically 5 choices: the PDF, just the books, or the PDFs and the books. But the PDFs and the books and just the books are the same price. So if you want the physical books, just go ahead and get the PDF plus. So for the digitally anyway, normal price about $10, about $1 off, so it's about $8. Where's my? I need to remember to get my. Where is my bodega menu? I gotta find my bodega menu picture again. But on the is it worth it scale. So what are the things I want to do? Like what is it delivering to us? So in this you are getting both a setting and a system if you want. I think you could probably fairly easily separate the two if you wanted to. I mean, obviously, I don't. Why would you separate the mechanics to use? I mean, maybe you fell in love with them. I don't know, but it might be more reasons to separate the setting if you want to. I don't. I don't know. There's anything that ties them together so strongly that you couldn't separate them if you wanted to. But you get a setting, you get a system to use it in, you get GM advice, you get player advice, you get a variant for cooperative play. You get about putting aside the blank pages and the character sheet. You get about, say, that's 97 and subtract a few on this side. To where does it start? About 95, 94, 95 pages of actual content for, $8. So we'll call it a couple of bagels. I want to say the bagels were like $3 to $4. Bagel with egg and cheese or something, about $3 or $4. I need to get that straightened out. Get my bodega menu. So on the kind of value for money, I think it's pretty good. I think it's good. I think you're getting a lot. I mean, if in other and this is why I hate doing these things in general, right? In other cases, someone might say some of the other things we looked at that you're really paying for kind of the innovation of the concept, right? If you say some of the FKR ones like Kismet, what you're paying for is the innovation of the concept, the appreciation. This person's kind of done something really interesting and kind of unique. Is this that? I would say no, it's not that. There are lots of games that have done something similar. You got Monster of the Week. I'm sure people could rattle on like what Kids on Bikes, I think, might be a similar vibe to this. Isn't there an X-Files game itself? I think if you wanted to do that, I'm sure there are lots of ones. I mean, Stranger Things. I know there's that D&D crossover. I don't know if there's a game in terms of playing not as D&D thing, but playing as the Stranger Things kind of kids. But right, so it's not like, oh my gosh, the system's innovative, but it does do some things that are interesting. I really like the collateral. I like how they handle the kind of fear and dread using that pulse system. I think is pretty neat. I do kind of dig in general the concept of using higher dice, modulating up and down dice to reflect your skill, the amount of skill you have. You get a lot of flavor if what you're looking for is flavor. I think the setting, right? It's not, I've never seen this before. No, it's not, but it does it in a very cogent way. It presents it, I think, very well. Gives you everything I think that you need. I mean, now granted, there's a lot of we don't have and I don't know if there exists. I haven't looked to see what other materials are available. So if you're looking for a specific, so one thing I say is missing, if you want to say, I don't know, missing in quotes, right? We don't have a particular location or starter adventure or anything like that. You have to create it. I feel like it could be pretty easy to put one in here because remember, we're playing this. We're very much creating kind of narratives. And if you're playing this game, if you're going to play this with your group, you're going to want to get together and make sure that's what you want. And then everyone should play towards that. So I would say if I was going to run this on Halloween tonight, I would probably want to make sure that everyone's on the page of, hey, you guys are all, whatever we're doing, but think about an X-Files, right? Think about an X-Files episode and kind of how that works. That's what you're going to be playing. You're not playing a do whatever I want kind of thing. We're playing something specific. Or maybe you would say, think of a Tales from the Dark Side episode, or think about a Stranger Things mini season, something of that nature. That's how I would pitch it. And then because we're doing with that, like it's not like I need the same kind of things that I think I would need if I was playing an OSR game. I could take a whole bunch of stuff and drop it in and just kind of play it loose. I feel like that's kind of what the system's asking me to do, is just kind of play it loose. Play it loose. Oh, you're Mothman. We're playing kind of a Mothman scenario, and so you're I forget the place, and was it Michigan? I forget where was it Michigan? I can't remember where the bridge and stuff was, but some kind of thing, or you're in an old nuclear whatever that your kids are all hanging out and smoking or doing whatever, messing around, and somehow you end up in the Myrrorside thing, and you encounter Mothman itself or one of these things that's kind of Mothman-ish in any case, and deal with that. And a lot of the sort of crunch is just there embedded in the skills, and I feel like I could kind of play around with it, and I think I could work it, which is kind of what you want. So is that worth $8? Yeah, I would say so. Other than an adventure, and I don't feel like you always have to have an adventure, and I think they give you enough options for how to do it, and including doing it GMless, which is cool. I would say so. And it's done in a very, I really like the clean layout. I mean, I kind of feel like if I say I really like that it sounds like I'm faint praise, but no, I really like it. The art, it all works together, even though it's from various sources. But man, it just kind of, I never, like I said, never would have thought it didn't work. And easy to find stuff, easy to read stuff. They just very well put together to make kind of a smooth reading experience. Dave says that Angus has a mission out too. Cool. He did send me a link to something else, but obviously I wasn't going to have time to cover it now. So maybe I'll come back. I think it's called the White House, also with a Y instead of an I. I don't know if that's just their naming convention, like Mirror with an I, White with an I. So that might be an adventure. So maybe I'll come back to that a little bit later in another time. But this, I feel like, gives you all the tools that you need. A little bit less than $8 right now. I'm guessing through tonight on drive-through. If you like what you see and you want to go forth, and then maybe we can look at that adventure down the line, because I would like to kind of see them taking the season and episode as a way of breaking out your campaign, different way of thinking about your campaign, and then beats or things within the campaign. Breaking, I'd love to see what that looks like in practice. Okay. It is a name, not a color, says Dave. Yeah, I get that. I would get that. Hey, Snowman in Hell. Am I thinking about Army of the Dead? Oh, the Army of the Dead in terms of that. Yes. So a while back in the stream, I mentioned a movie where they're in Las Vegas and they're dealing, or they're outside Las Vegas. And they have to go into Las Vegas dealing with zombies. Yeah, I think that is Army of the Dead. Correct. I believe you are correct. Thank you. Magnus says White House, WIGHT. No, I think it's WHYTE. I will check into that. Maybe we'll do that later on. Let me know if you guys have interest. You guys want to see it. Angus was kind enough to send it to me, so I have it, so I don't need to get it. So if you want to see more about White House, let me know. I want to thank Angus and Parallel Publishing very much again for, I don't know if there's other folks in Parallel Publishing, but I'll cover all my bases for allowing me to read that. It was a really fun read. It's, I like my old school kind of NSR, OSR type stuff, but I'm certainly not averse to going out of maybe what I would consider my comfort zone and looking at stuff. And this, very cool. I think it hits a nice point of gives me what I think I would need to run it. It's not super crunchy. And I think the nature of the Myrrorside is such that it wouldn't even be worth being crunchy, because distances and so many things are kind of variable and fluid over there, that having all kinds of hardcore crunchiness and ranges and all kinds of other stuff, or ammunition, whatever, it's kind of not what they're trying to go for. So I appreciate that they're kind of upfront about that, and it allows you to really drill down to the stuff that they want to get in. That the collateral, super interesting to me, and I'm gonna have to ponder. I'm gonna ponder what I might be able to do with collateral. I really like that a lot, and I always like, what gives me an extra kind of thumbs up is I always like when I can read something, whether I end up playing it or not or using it. There's something I could take away saying, "Oh, that's clever," and for me, collateral, clever, and I want to think about what I can do with that. And the Dave says the name of the mission is Drama the White House. Okay. Magnus says it could be fun to lift some rules for adventures in the domains of Dread or Shadowfell too. Yeah, I could definitely see taking stuff if you wanted to look at Pulse and maybe seeing the levels of Pulse. It's kind of similar to my Fear and Dread kind of concept, but another way of looking at it if you wanted to add some kind of fear or dread or terror elements into your game. Might be good to look at Pulse. Like I said, I really like Collateral as a concept. But yeah, I could see adapting some of this stuff out. Or if you just want something to change of pace, I feel like the system from a player standpoint would be pretty easy to understand. The higher the die you have, the better you are at something. Kind of makes sense. It's going to click, and then everything, I think you can just kind of play by ear in a good way. And then the karma system, right, that attracts the dark creatures. Yeah, because the more collateral you're carrying around, the more attractive you are, which is nice. And again, it's on the players, right? This is not something that you as a referee, GM, they call it the director here, are foisting on them. They are taking that on themselves. So they make that choice to take on collateral, then they got to pay the price. And I always like that when I can just look at the table and some weird creature shows up and I'm thinking about who are they attacking? I don't even have to roll a die. And usually it's like, well, I'm going to roll a die and say, if it's 1 to 2, it's you. If it's 3 to 4, it's you. It's 5 to 6, it's you. I might still do that. But the first thing I can go is like, hey, who's carrying around the most collateral? And someone's going to raise their hand and like, I've got 4. And then everyone else will go, oh, a few, because I got 3. Someone else says, I got 2. It's like, great. Collateral guy with 4. They're on you. Fight. So Good stuff. All right, folks. I got a jet. Have a happy Halloween. I might post some blog stuff, type stuff, 2-night vlog. Did I say blog? Vlog kind of stuff. I might throw it on my other channel because I never do things over there, and I should. I'll probably link over there as I take my daughter trick-or-treating. I know some of you folks are on European or beyond time, so you guys are already into the evening already. So enjoy your Halloween evening, and I will talk to you on All Saints Day and beyond. Game on, everybody, and I will talk to you later. Bye now.